Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are having a fantastic day. So today's upload is going to be a video about a potential upcoming snowstorm across the southern US. So this storm is going to be very impactful for a good portion of the southern US. Now, the models have really had a hard time with this system, right? And there's still a lot of unconfidence, you know. A lot of details have to be sorted out. The National Weather Service is confused. I'm confused, really. The models are confused. But it seems like the Kansas, Oklahoma area, and Texas Panhandle will see some snow. The amounts may vary, obviously, from model to model. But really, remember that location in yesterday's video where I was talking about North Carolina seeing some snow and into Virginia, right off the coast. Last night, it seemed really highly unlikely. Well, today the chances have actually risen up. Last night, really the NAM model was the only one that, the North American model was the only one that showed some significant snow amounts for those locations. Now it seems like the GFS, Global Forecasting System, the American model is showing quite a big amount of snow over here. Now the European doesn't agree with that, but the GFS and NAM both show that. So we'll have to definitely see whether or not that is going to happen. At this point, you know, it's not far out, but there's still a whole load of unconfidence. So let's get into this in a bit. So looking at the GFS model, you can see that there's this dragged out cold front, and it's producing precipitation right now across the southern U.S., right? Okay, there's a lot of cold air coming in from the north, which really supplies this area with that cold air, and that is what allows a lot of this North Carolina, Virginia area to see that snow. Without this cold air, there would be no way of seeing heavy snow. So let's look at this now model run. Again, this cold front kind of sticks around. We see a little piece of energy at the base of this high pressure, base of this Arctic air. And you can see it happens right there across Nebraska, Iowa. So some snow for Kansas, Oklahoma, even portions of northern Arkansas and southern Missouri will definitely be occurring. That passes through very quickly. Notice, even into northern portions of Georgia and Tennessee and Alabama, there could be some snow. So that is not out of the question. But then look what happens. The cold air is definitely there. It's plentiful. It's locked in, and the moisture just rides right over it. And look at that, North Carolina into South Carolina into Virginia, really see a potential large system. Now this doesn't move up the east coast, this really moves off quickly off the coast into the east or into the ocean. However, the snow amounts may be actually pretty significant if this were to occur. You can see that the GFS puts out quite a big amount of a pocket of over 6 inches. A widespread 2 to 4 inches is definitely possible, and some higher amounts in the higher elevations. So you can see that has definitely gone up from last night. Now let's look at the south central United States. Notice also some snow amounts, generally lighter, 2 to 4 inches, maybe with some pockets reaching up to 5 inches, though half a foot is rather far-fetched. However, with these type of systems, overachieving is basically a characteristic of these type of southern storms. Okay, so definitely a chance for this. Okay, and the other models may not be agreeing with this. Okay, but we will still look at them. So you can see Canadian puts out a dose of snow across Kansas and Oklahoma. Nothing too heavy, right? They've seen way bigger storms. Okay, however, it's still you know, a relatively interesting storm and could cause some travel conditions. Now, if you look at the southeast, you can see they do show snow, the Canadian, just not as much as the GFS. So even if this were to occur on a lower end amount, this would still be rather significant. So let's see what the Canadian does, and let's expand to a wider region so we have a better look at this. So again, we have that stalled cold front going on across the southern U.S. as of now. That gets picked up by this little disturbance, a little bit of snow in Kansas, and look, a little bit of snow right there Friday and Thursday, Friday. So Thursday into Friday, we could be seeing some snow across those locations. Okay, and the confidence is obviously very low, but we'll just have to wait and see what the models do. Now, there's plenty of storms, by the way, for those that are wondering. After that, there's so many potential. There's a lot of potential for many storms, and each model is showing a lot of differences. But one thing they are agreeing on is that it looks as if the next couple of days will be cold across the east, right? Then into the weekend and a couple of days after the weekend, maybe a bit warmer. It might actually be really warm into the 50s, but then it could get cold for an extended 2 to 3 weeks. So if you're hoping in the northern U.S. To see a early spring, in March, really nice temperatures, which usually doesn't happen. On average, it doesn't happen. This year, it won't be no different. It seems like it will be really chilly at the beginning of March. However, again, things may quickly warm up towards the end, and I think that's how it will be. It's just, the cold may linger for a little bit more than expected. Let's look at the NAM 12KM. This is the model run that has been showing, one of the models has been showing the snow all along, so it's been the most consistent, more consistent than the European and the GFS, especially the GFS since it's now converted to the the NAM scenario, and you can see it puts out snow across Kansas into Texas, though it quickly dwindles as it moves to the south. The lack of precipitation as most of the bulk moves into Tennessee and North Carolina, and this is where things go absolutely crazy. You could see Tennessee, North Carolina, the mountains, Asheville, all those locations would be seeing lots of snow, and all the way to the coastal areas. So this would definitely be a storm to remember. Okay, and you can see that this is a glitch, by the way. Okay, don't look at these amounts up here and be mesmerized. As you could see, if I go from hour 0 and all of a sudden it just appears right there. So that's obviously a glitch that's not accurate, but down to the south, that is accurate. You can see that it goes on slowly, and the NAM obviously is the most aggressive, with amounts of snow reaching some pretty significant heights, up to a foot of snow across a widespread portion of really the whole state of North Carolina, but especially the eastern portions into northern South Carolina. This shows even into Georgia. That most likely would not happen. However, this Carolina scenario is definitely possible. To this extent, I don't think so, but up to half a foot, I think, is reasonable. So let's look at perhaps a different model. Really, the problem is, guys, that most of these models don't really go out that far into showing the storm yet. The high resolution models, as it's still far enough away, but close enough away where it's really confusing. You can see the NAM 3KM also shows heavy snow, which is a NAM, just different, I guess, version of the NAM. And if you were to look at the radar precip, MSLP and precip, look, it also shows a very profound system, especially for February across the south. This would obviously lead to some concerns and some very heavy snow. So at this point, all I have to say is that the odds have increased, definitely, for a system across North Carolina. The odds will probably, honestly, this is where the thing is, I don't know whether or not they will increase or decrease. I'm thinking that this is more likely and likely to be going to happen, and I think it will happen. Just maybe not to the same extent as the NAM is showing, but something what the Canadian was showing, which again was more of a 3 to 4, maybe 5-inch event, which is probably more reasonable from the Canadian versus the NAM, which is really just absurd with those snowfall amounts. So I'll show you the European model now. Let's go to the ECMWF in terms of its let's go to regions, continental United States, and let's go to 500 height anomalies, and this basically shows us where storm systems form. Notice it has that little trough in the jet stream right there. That is indicative of a disturbance, so that would definitely be there. The cold air is also there, and notice how the European also puts out quite a bit of cold air later on in the country, later on in a long range for the country. So that's interesting. Let me show you the snowfall amounts from the European. As you can see, the European really is not liking the scenario of a snowy North Carolina or South Carolina. It shows absolutely nothing. Maybe a little bit by the coastal areas, up to an inch tops. But yeah, that's not really exciting. It shows a little bit more across Kansas, maybe 1 to 2 inches. Still nothing too impressive. I'm not really liking this scenario. I think it's a possibility, but again, like I've said, the NAM and the GFS, especially the NAM, has been known to been pretty darn good at systems in the southern U.S. It's been pretty darn good, and I actually kind of forgot about that because we haven't had a system in the south for such a darn long time that I even forgot about that little rule that I noticed with the NAM. But now that I talk more about it, and this snowstorm brings it up, I recall that the NAM was the one that predicted that winter storm. I think it was Winter Storm Benji, 2017, or yeah, 2017 December. That was a really large storm across the southern U.S., and the first model to catch on that was a NAM 12KM. So that was definitely something to look for. Notice across the northern U.S. there's also some amounts European showing way different amounts than the GFS across way different locations. You could see interior northeast, we would be seeing a dose as well as portions of the Midwest, but the GFS would be showing different amounts for the rest of the United States, as there's different placements of storms. You can see a big one across the middle portion of the country, and then it kind of glitches out over here with that little with those amounts. So really the furthest I can show you is right here without the glitch. Let's see what the National Weather Service has to say about this. Notice it has a little bit of winter weather advisories for western Kansas. That is probably to do with the snow. I would say as of now, a 1 to 3 inch event is probably the most likely. Anything more doesn't seem likely, especially for these locations, as it's really going to be moisture starved when it hits these locations. So for some reason the weather story isn't working. Let's just go to the actual forecast. You can see they're showing 2 to 4 inches. That may be a bit overdone, as the National Weather Service has done that this past winter. But it's possible. If you were to look at portions of the North Carolina where this system may be occurring, let's talk about it. Notice it's 61 right now, and they're talking about snow possibly Thursday night. You could see 1 to 2 inches they have right now for what is this, the Leggett, I don't know how to say that, like North Carolina. Let's go to like Williamson, or let's go to Greenville, a bigger city. And let's see what they're showing. You could see new precipitation amounts as 1/10 and 1/4 of an inch. So they're definitely putting in a possibility of snow across North Carolina. And they could definitely see that. Let's see what their news headlines are. If they mentioned this, yeah, you could see snow potential Thursday evening night. And you could see that what has changed. First briefing on potential for snow. They're showing according to up to 2 inches, especially on grassy surfaces. I think that may be a bit underdone, especially as the time to go out. But again, they really don't have a lot of confidence with this. They really are kind of guessing on this one, as lots of the models are not agreeing with this. And if it were to be more like the GFS in European, that would be a different story. Let's go to Raleigh, and let's see what they're showing. You could see the chance of rain and snow is still there, but nothing impressive really quite at all. So they have a severe weather outlook, actually. In fact, for these locations, they're more concerned about that than the snow, and rightly so, as at this point, you could see if this were the European outcome, it would be practically nothing. So it kind of went in a combination of the two. So thank you guys so much for watching. Consider liking the video, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll catch you all guys on the next episode. See ya. Bye.